I think we're live recording once again, Lauren. Thanks for joining me. I know we've done a podcast before, and we talk regularly. Um, and I wanted to take an opportunity now that I kind of have you at a slower pace than your normal schedule, just to kind of introduce you. I refer to you often in both in my training kids I'm coaching. I end up using you as an example for a lot of things, and just the things that you've imparted before to other players that I'm coaching with, especially the young girls that are coming through, at least that I interface with. And so I think there's a lot that you have offered to share. I think last year you shared with me an audio file. And we were talking about recruitment and what that means for a high school athlete. That went really far and wide to a wide audience. It went to a lot of varsity boys players, but it went to like one of the higher level girl varsity teams in the state here got that file. A lot of the girls that I've worked with individually got that file too. So I know they were all very appreciative of it. Before
That's
we kind of
awesome.
dive
Yeah.
too
I
deep in,
remember.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say I remember sending you that. I was in Spain playing when you had asked for that recording, and I was like, this is a perfect time. It was like right after practice. I'm like, let me give you the rundown.
And it was super heartfelt. Like you're very passionate about it, so it came across that way. Um, so before we kind of get into too much of the weeds, would you take a kind of a few moments and just maybe summarize your basketball career? Maybe start from like that high school time period, and then how you ended up where you ended up and what you're doing now.
Definitely. Yeah. So I am originally from Scottsdale, Arizona, born and raised. I played high school basketball at Notre Dame Prep out here in Scottsdale, and I played club basketball at Arizona Elite. So that is kind of where I got my feet in the water into the recruiting process. I would say I was a little late too. I didn't realize that I was capable and wanted to play Division I basketball really until sophomore, junior year of high school. And I was like, hey, I think I got a chance at this. So club really helped me there. It was my junior year that I signed to play at the University of Denver. So that is where I did my 4-year career from 2016 to 2020. I played at the University of Denver, where I was blessed to have a great career. Gabriel knows as well. My strength and my bread and butter is the 3-point shot. So I was grateful and blessed to have the opportunity to become the national ranked 3-point shooter in Division I basketball. Broke the record for the Summit League that I played in, and yeah, all 4 years was top 10, hit number 1 almost all 4 years for 3-point percentage and 3-point makes. So something I was super grateful to do, which led me into post college. 2020 it was tough. COVID year, so a lot of European teams were not signing a lot of Americans at that time because people were not importing overseas. But I was lucky enough to get an opportunity to go to Ireland. So I went to Ireland right after graduation, went there, was there for about 4 months until, due to COVID, season was canceled, was heartbroken, came home. I'm like, what is going on? I don't know if I'm going to keep playing, but I was like, you know what? I'll have another chance. I know it. So continued training, got the call. My dream country was to play in Spain, got that offer. I went to Spain. That was 2021 that I went to Spain. And about 4 months in, I tore my ACL in Spain. So another heartbreaking scenario for me. I thought that I was done. I was like, this is it. Dream came true, and it was taken away from me. So I came home to Arizona after that time, and I began working full time as a business analyst, was doing my rehab every single day after work. And that was kind of my life. I was like, that's it for basketball. I just got to get my knee healthy. And I had a great support system here in Arizona. I did everything through Ortho Arizona with my physical therapist and my trainer now. And they were the ones who really pushed me and got my mindset right to be like, hey, you're still young. You're still capable of playing. Like, let's get you back on that court. And so last year, 2023, I went to Spain again, got the contract. It was like, wow, this is my second chance. And I had the season of my life. I became the top ranked shooter in Spain, broke their record for most threes in a single game with 10 threes, and became just a nationally known shooter in Spain. So last season was one for the memory books, and seriously like the biggest accomplishment in my life. So I came home about 4 months ago from Spain. I now am working full-time as a product analyst at Dick's Sporting Goods. So life after basketball right now is hitting, but I still play every day. You never know what can happen, but I'm truly blessed to be working for a sporting company, and not just any sporting company, but probably the biggest one in the United States. So still involved in the game, still coaching. And yeah, you never know what the future holds. So there's always another door that could open up, and just living the dream, honestly. So that's kind of my past and my history with where the game has taken me.
Yeah, there's such a story of perseverance in your journey, right? And just this can-do attitude and keep trying, and no matter what, you're going to keep going. So I think that's something valuable for athletes to hear. And I wonder if we can take just a moment. If I want to kind of cover down on something that's really passionate to me, or that I'm passionate about, is the athlete development. And if you can think back to that first kind of component of your life when you were like, all right, if I want to be good, I have to differentiate myself somewhere. If I want to get to college, and that's probably the first thing that's on your mind, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, I'm playing, how do I get to college? So in terms of player development for you, I wonder if you could talk to a little about what were the things that you did for yourself. Like, what sort of mental gymnastics did you go through to go, okay, if I want to differentiate myself and get there and be, at some point you decided you needed to be a shooter, or you wanted to be a shooter, and that became your primary focus. What did you do to get there? Like, what steps did you take? And then, I wonder if you could offer a little bit too, like, what can kids do? Sorry, I'm only trying to let people in at the same time. What can other people do, younger athletes do in that same situation? How do they get in?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And like you said, you hinted at it. It started when I was really in high school, like you said, and trying to get to college. Like, first goal was, can I get a scholarship? I want to go to school for free. What do I need to do to stand out? And that was like the key word for me. Like, I'm a 5'8", shorter, not the fastest, never the strongest, never the most explosive on the court. Like, you see me and you're gonna think, oh, she's gonna be easy to guard. She's gonna be no problem. And I'm like, I need to find what my strengths are and prove that I'm better than everyone else on the court at that. And for me, it was shooting. And I was like, okay, how am I gonna stand out to all these hundreds of thousands of girls who are shooters in this country to get me that scholarship offer? So, and I'll always remember, I had a great club coach tell me, you can't just be a good shooter, you need to be a great shooter in order to get that scholarship. So I put my head down from that day, and I was like in the gym every single day, taking the hard shots. And what I mean by taking the hard shots, I'm taking the threes off a step back, threes off of a screen, threes on the move, contested threes that other girls at that time were not attempting and wasn't even in their range. And that's how I was able to stand out on the big stage, was not only taking those super tough shots, but being able to prove that I can make them too. So that was really my turning point going from junior to senior year, was like, hey, that girl doesn't just catch and shoot when she's open. She's shooting it on the move, hand in the face, coming off the screen, step back. I mean, she's doing whatever she wants with it. So it was also, that comes down to like gaining that trust and that confidence with my coaches to be like, hey, I'm going to show you in practice that I'm capable of these shots so that I get that green light in the games. And that really translated well for me in college when I was able to continue to do that at a high level. And like you said, Gabriel, like, college scholarship was my first goal. Once I finally got that, I was like, hey, can I take this to the professional level? And how can I translate my game to be able to excel at the professional level? So speaking to anyone going through that process right now of, hey, can I play in college? I want to see how far this game can take me. It really just comes down to the work you put in and the dedication that you have for the game. And I know anyone hearing this probably hears that all the time, like, it's up to you, but it truly is. And I think that there's times where parents or coaches will kind of like flutter that idea of it all. But at the end of the day, like my recruiting process, my parents didn't know what to do when it came to colleges. We had no clue. I just went out there and played. And that's what I have to say too, is like college coaches, they will find you if the talent is there and you put in that work. I truly believe that to this day. And that doesn't mean just scoring points. Like that was my strength, was scoring points, but you can talk to any coach I've ever had. They're gonna down me on my defense every day. They're gonna be like, yeah, she can shoot the ball, but man, does she need to work on her defense. So it's hit or miss. And there's gonna be girls out there, boys out there who they're gonna get recruited to get that D1 scholarship just because they can play defense. And I'm telling you, every coach goes out on their recruiting trips looking for little details in players that are gonna help them form their dream team. So with that being said, it's not all about the scoring. It's really, I'll tell you this, number one is body language and how you treat your coaches and your teammates. Like I've told Gabriel this before too. I don't know how many times I've seen a college coach have a list of players on their little list to look at, hundreds of girls, hundreds of guys on their list. They go over, they see a teammate fall down, you don't pick them up, boom. Name is crossed off that list. They want a teammate who's going to be there for their other teammates and bring that light, that spirit, that body language. Like the second they see bad body language, that name gets crossed off.
Yeah. So every summer at PGC, Point Guard College, I'm around a bunch of college coaches, and some are higher level, some are high school coaches, and I have an opportunity sometimes to ask, or do a presentation where I'm able to ask questions of the coaches in the audience for the benefit of the athletes, right? And one of the questions that I like asking is to the coaches, like, just give me some one-liners about your favorite players. Like, who are your favorite players? And what comes out of those coaches' mouths is very interesting. They're never late to practice. They're the hardest workers. They're the ones picking players off the ground. They're the ones lighting up the bench. Like, they're the hype squad. No matter they're on the bench or they're in the game, they're the hype squad constantly. They never complain. I don't have to tell them twice. I don't have to remind them. Like, they're all of those things. And the point that I like making to the athletes when coaches are saying that is like, I want you to notice that the coaches have favorite players. They do. But I want you to notice that no coach said the best ball handler, the best shooter, the best rebounder, because it starts with those foundational pieces of like those intangible things. And I like what you said there, because I think it gets at this idea that there are a lot of good, when a coach is looking for players, especially college coaches, they're looking for good players, but they're also asking the question, are these players good for the team? And if you're a good player, good for the team, you're not good for the team, right? And so you're not going to find yourself on that team. So I love what you said there. Yeah, and any of the kids that are these athletes that are attending workouts with me hear this routinely. Like, body language is so important. In practice, I wonder if you talk a little bit about, I think this idea of body language is misunderstood, and it's not understood how to use it at practice. I want you to talk a little bit about how you would work on your body language at practice, because you can't show up to a game and expect that I'm going to have the greatest body language when I get into a game, right? You have to. So when would you, like, what are some instances or examples of when you would, like, or that you've had to work on body language? You're like, okay, I just got to, put this, whatever happened, it's in the rearview mirror, and I got to focus on the next thing.
Yeah.
And what
sorry, did I cut you off?
Nah, you were there.
No, I would say, again, coming from the shooter mentality, there are so many times in a game, in a practice, where, hey, the shot's not falling, and how am I going to react to that? Am I going to put my head down and pout and not show effort on the defensive side, not show effort on the rebounding side? And there was times in my past where I would do that. I would completely shut down as a player because, oh, I'm having a bad game. I'm going to let everyone know I'm having a bad game with the way that I'm carrying myself. So it really comes down to, how can I be effective in other ways? Because the shot's not always going to fall. It's not. How can I help in other ways? There's games where I didn't play. You know, there's games where I'm sitting the bench the whole time. Am I sitting there quiet with my hands in my lap, not even paying attention to the game? No, I'm up there cheering, making sure that I'm providing positive energy from the bench, because I don't think it goes unsaid of how important bench players are to the overall success of a team, and the energy that a bench and assistant coaches can really have on the trajectory and the success of a team. So it really comes down to the little things. I'd say when one player, you know, misses a shot, doesn't get back on defense, and they get a transition layup on the other side because of it, that's not just you missed that bad shot. Now we've also let 2 points just go on the board, and the whole team feels that energy. Energy is contagious. And so the second that one teammate has a bad attitude, it's bringing all the other ones, it's sucking all their energy into that too. So that's what it goes back to, you were saying, Gabriel, too, of a coach looking for that. I mean, yes, they want their scores. Yes, they want these pieces, but first comes, who are you as a person? Are you a good person? Are you going to mesh well with the rest of the team? Because we can teach other skills, but you can't teach someone those innate qualities of how they are as a person first. So again, like they would love more of a challenge to develop a player if they're willing to learn, they're willing to be coachable, and they're willing to work hard, than someone who has everything they need but doesn't get along with a single teammate. So that's where it comes down to, is like, success wise, is what a coach is looking for.
Yeah. And to sort of add to that, I get a lot of calls from coaches. I get 2 types of calls. One from coaches that have an athlete I want to send you because they're struggling, or can you come and watch a practice because something's not going well and I don't know what it is. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that a coach is more likely to look at a player who's got this great attitude and great body language and these intangibles, and maybe struggling with shooting or maybe struggling with other things. They're almost there. And coaches are willing to look at an athlete in those situations and say, I can develop shooting, I can develop ball handling, I can develop rebounding. They are uncomfortable looking at an athlete and saying, I can develop body language, I can develop attitude. Those are harder things. Coaches aren't, I think the coach is the best sports psychologist you could have. But they're not necessarily trained in that. And that's why they call me. Can you come and give me an evaluation of what's happening? Would you kind of speak to, like, an instance, like you're in practice and you take a shot that maybe doesn't fall, or something that's disappointing to you? Like, what do you do in the moment that disappointment happens? That, like, can you walk some of these athletes through your body language and your response, whether it be 2 claps and a fist, or I got this, or whatever it is? Like, how do you go from something that's disappointing to, all right, next play mentality?
Yeah, you said it right there. The next play mentality. That's what really I had to teach myself over the years, was that next shot. I think as a shooter, everyone in the game is a shooter at this point. So that missing 1, 2, 3, it's really easy to say, that's it, I'm done shooting, I'm not going to shoot anymore, I'm having an off day. No, that mentality has flipped for me completely, where I miss a shot, I don't even think twice about the next one. I could airball 10 in a row. If I'm open on that 11th shot, I'm taking it without a hesitation. So I think that's where the growth really came for me, was anytime I make a mistake, whatever it is, scratch it, next play. I'm taking that next shot no matter what the situation is. If I'm open, no hesitation. And that's really hard for players, especially at a young age. It was for me too, that, as a shooter, I'd miss 3 and I'd stand in the corner and be like, don't pass it to me. Like, I'm terrible. I'm a terrible player. Don't pass to me. I just missed 3. But no, that's the thing, is like, you can go 0 for 11 and make that 12th one that matters. So that's how I always look at it. And like you said, if I miss a shot too, I'm not pouting and walking back. I'm like running back on D hey, let me stop this girl right now from scoring it on me so I can get the ball back and get another opportunity on the offensive side. I'm very offensive minded, so I'm always thinking, how can I get the ball? How can I get the ball? How can I get the ball? So it, like you said, it's really that next play mentality and having the confidence in yourself, which comes from all that practice and all that work, to be like, I don't care if I miss. I know I'm capable of making these next shots. I'm going to continue to shoot them.
And you know you're capable of making those shots because you've taken enough in practice that you know from this corner I'm 50%, from this wing I'm 48%. Right? Am I is that accurate to say that you know what your percentage is when you shoot from there?
Yeah, I'd say every time I shoot the ball, my mind is it's going in. Like I'm always gonna think that. I don't take a shot thinking like, oh, this might be a bad shot. Like every time I touch the ball and I shoot it, it's because I think it's going in. So yeah, it's really, for me, like shot selection has really improved over the years too. I would take some more shots that, hey, maybe I wasn't more comfortable with, and it did bring my percentage down because I was taking shots that weren't in my range or weren't something I was comfortable doing. And so that's when I would, hey, in practice, I'm like, let me just focus on all those. Let me take threes 5 feet past the NBA line. Let me take threes off the dribble that I usually don't do between the legs off a screen. So that way, when I get into a game-like situation, it feels natural. It's in the game. It's the rhythm shot. And it's like, I just did a step back three from the logo without even realizing it because I do that in practice all the time.
Yeah. And the reason I brought that up about knowing your like where you shoot, I'm 50% from here normally, whatever, is I think the confidence of a shooter, it's helpful to know, hey, I know I'm a 50% shooter from the corner, say, and I just missed 3 shots, right, in a row. But I know if I keep shooting, I'm going to get to 50% because I'm a 50% shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Practice, like this idea of what gets measured gets improved, or tracking helps improve performance. Right? So if I know I'm a 50% shooter and I shot 3 and I missed 3, if I don't shoot anymore, I'm definitely not getting to 50%. So if I know that my percentage is 50, I got to keep shooting, right? And in fact, I might miss 5 in a row before I start making that turn to making 5 out of 10.
Exactly. No, I agree. Like there's been so many games I can think of where I went 0 for 4, 0 for 5, finished though 4 for 8, 6 for 9. And that comes down to the belief in myself and my coach having that same trust in me to be like, I know she's going to start making these. I'm not going to take her out because I believe in her and I know that she can get hot real quick. So it's proving it both ways, to yourself and to your teammates and to your coach.
Yeah, and I love that the idea of a coach having trust in you. From a coach's perspective, there's different utilities we can use to track shooting, right? There's all kinds of gadgets now. But like one of the simple ones I use is an app called Home Court. And so if an athlete, I'll post up there, hey, shoot, trying to get 200 shots a day during the season. And if it's off season, like try and get 500-600 shots a day. Like that, you can do that in 40 minutes. That's not a huge ask. But if they're shooting and I can see where they're shooting from, because I'm getting feedback from the app of where athletes are shooting from. What it does for me is it puts me in a place to help you as an athlete to know, like, you're 70% from here. This is rare, right? So I need to structure offensive sets that you get those looks from that side. 1,
Mm-hmm.
2, if you miss 3 in a row from that side, I'm going to tell you, keep shooting from there because I know you're 70% shooter. If you don't track your shots and you don't do anything, like I don't know as a coach, right? And so to build, the point I want to make here is to build the coach's confidence in the athlete. If you're an athlete, do some things to help educate your coach. If they're not tracking it themselves, or you don't have a NOAA system in your gym, do something to track it so your coach knows and share that. Like, hey, this is my shooting percentage from. I love this app because you shoot like 300 or 400 shots, and then it shows you at the end of your workout where your percentages were. It shows your angle of entry. It shows your time of release. Like these are really good scientific like data points that you can use even as a shooter. You're trying to improve, an athlete trying to improve. You can do that with everything, with defense and a lot of things. And the point I just want to drive home there is you can help develop a coach's confidence in you if you take the initiative to track your shooting.
100% agree. And me coming from the data analytics world now, that's where I work in, I can't push hard enough too for the importance of those numbers and those percentages. I work individually right now with a high school girl from my high school where I used to go to, and she's really, really pushing and wanting to get that scholarship. So every single workout that I do with her, I'm recording everything, all the percentages, free throw percentages, so I can track her improvement after each workout. And it's incredible to see her free throw percentage go from 76% to 86%. And it's like a 10% increase is massive. That is incredible. But then I can also see like, okay, she's averaging 76% catch and shoot from the mid-range. The second that turns to on the move, that dropped 15%. So it's interesting to see that transition, as well as I go, okay, you're going to do these threes on your own right now. I'll rebound for you out of 50, record it. And then I go, okay, now it's a competition, me versus you, record it. How much better she shot, knowing that it was now a competition and she was playing for something. Her numbers went way up because she's like, I want to beat her. She was way more locked in. She was shooting at a different mentality, different speed, different rhythm, where I'm like, you need to be shooting like that when it's just me rebounding for you. The second I made it a competition versus me, you changed your whole way of playing, your whole movement. And okay, now that the pressure's on, she changed her speed, her mentality, her everything. So it's interesting to see how the numbers fluctuate when the scenario changes.
Yeah, and I love that. I think that hits on another thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit, and that's just your intention when you're working out, right? Whether it be with your team or you're working out alone. Like you go walk into the gym and just start chucking up threes, right? But if you don't have, then there's not intention there. You said like I took these really shots at girls most girls wouldn't take. I'm sure you didn't walk into the gym and just start shooting those shots. Like you had a process. You walk in, you stretch, you get warmed up. I shoot 500 shots in this range, and then I move back, and then I get to these hard shots. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, 100% agree, because I see it all the time going into the gym and seeing people coming in there and they're not shooting game-like shots, whether they're in there for fun or not. But I always notice it too, because I'm like, if you're in there trying to get better, but you're not doing everything at a game-like speed or handling the ball the way you would in a game or rebounding the way, like all those little actions, movements, like if they're not game-like, you're really not making yourself better for game-like shots. Because I always say, and I think I've told you too before, Gabriel, is that realistically, whatever you're shooting in a practice situation with catch and shoot, you're going to shoot 20% less than that in a game when you have the defense on you and you're, fully playing. It's a lot different than just the setting of just practice. So that's why it is so important to push yourself in the practices so that the games feel easier than the practice. If you're in there just at the practice and you're shooting whatever, then you go into the game and it's like, geez, this is really hard now that I have to play at a different pace and there's people guarding me. So I do believe that the way you practice is what will show your results in a game.
Yeah. And I like this idea too of back to this sort of keeping track and keeping track of numbers, keeping track of what you're doing in workouts, keeping track of how many workouts you do, how many shots you take, how many practices you go to, and why it's important. And over the years, I've worked with a lot of professional triathletes as well. So weird combination of basketball players and triathletes, probably because I was a D1 triathlete. So that makes sense. But one of the things that we know, and I know of working with these athletes, well, if I ask an athlete this question, whether it be basketball player or triathlete, have you ever had this peak performance? So it's like a game when it's just been amazing. And, like everything was falling, like they couldn't do anything wrong. And almost every athlete will tell me, yeah, I've had that. And the follow-up question I like to have is, why did you have it? Like, what were the reasons that you had such a great performance? And almost always they say, I don't know. I'm not sure. But if you're tracking your workouts, if you track what you do, when you did it, how often you did it, how much you ate, how much you slept, then as data scientists, we can start to get to this place of understanding, oh, when you have a good night's sleep the night before and you have the right nutrition and you're shooting 1,000 shots a week, that's when you tend to have these amazing shooting performance. You can go back and look at your log or your diary and say that's when these things happen. And so the whole idea around peak performance, especially for someone who's working with athletes and mental skills training, is how do we get that peak performance versus happens and we don't know why. And that comes from this idea of tracking our data, being really, really good with it. And I learned that from first group of athletes I saw doing this was Australian Olympic swim team. I was working at the high altitude training center, Northern Arizona University. And I noticed when the Australians would come in, I would be there early in the morning. I'd be there for them. Italians would come and swim, but the Australians had a bunch of medical doctors with them. And so what they would do is they'd come in from the night before workout. They would do a warm up. Everyone would do this like 30-minute, just casual warm up, like technique work. Then one by one, the team doctors would call them to the side and they would do a lactic threshold test, lactic acid test, blood test. They prick their finger, detect the blood right there. And their lactic acid was at a certain level that day. They just pulled them out of the water and said, your workout's done. And I remember thinking to myself, like, it's crazy. Like, these guys aren't even working out right now. And everyone else, they're going to, and the guys who are in the water are getting this like pounding hard workout. And if you happen to have high lactic acid that day, they're pulling you out. But what that helped me understand was the real science behind it. What they knew is if your lactic acid is at a certain level, you probably overtrained. So to keep training that day, you're going to end up either sick or injured. So they just pull you out until you have a better, until your lactic acid, until you recover, right? For whatever reason, the athlete may have just didn't have all the right variables to fit into that. But it just led me to this place where that professional athletes are very meticulous about every detail and every data point to get better. They're beyond this place where I'm just going to a gym. Going to a gym isn't quite enough, right? It's going to a gym with a vision and a mission. And someone was asking me this day, I want to share this with you, and I want your feedback on this. And this is something that I've come up with over the years. There's 4 classes of an athlete, right? And one is they're interested. There's an athlete that's interested. And you might see this at the basic level of sports. I kind of want to play basketball. I'm interested in it. I show up to, some practices and things. And then there's the committed athlete. They'll show up to all the practices and they might hit a trainer every once in a while. Maybe they're playing on an AAU team. They're committed. They go to the games, they go to the practices. It's not like an occasional thing. Then there's the obsessed athlete. And I mean that in a most positive way, meaning the obsession's healthy, right? They're thinking about basketball. They're watching basketball. They're reading about it. They're watching YouTube videos on like how to, float dribble. They're in it, right? That's when we start getting, and I start seeing college athletes is at that obsession level. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I'm not only going to all the practices, I've probably got a separate trainer. I'm doing a few other things. I'm living and breathing to be better. The rare one, the 4th category, is they're obsessed with dominating. It's not enough to be good, but they're obsessed with dominating everybody. And it's not like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to learn how to shoot them. Like, I'm going to be so good that I can't miss. Like, I'm so good that every time the ball will be in my hands at every end of game. So they're practicing to get to this place of total domination. And I think you said some of that when you're talking about how the kinds of shots you were shooting, right? Because they weren't normal. It'd be one thing to go, I'm obsessed with shooting these normal shots. Then you start to get to this obsession of domination, right? I wonder if you'd speak to that a little bit, at least in terms of like how you see athletes, how you know athletes, and if those kind of fit into a structure that you could cognitively go like, yeah, this is kind of how I see them too.
Yeah, I think your breakdown, those 4 different kind of slots of a player is really well said, because I definitely see that at all levels too. Even at the college level, when you're on a D1 team, like you'll see the ones who truly care actually about doing really well, and the other ones who they were good enough just to make it there and they're happy with just getting that scholarship and getting out after the 4 years. So you can truly see that separation all the way through. And like you said, I think it comes down to just like your innate natural want and love for the game too. That's something that a coach can't teach or give a player. Like for me, you could talk to any coach or teammate that I've had, is like I'm crazy hard on myself because I'm so particular about my shot. Is like when I'm missing, I'm beating myself up about it sometimes too at practice. I'm like, geez, I've missed 3 in a row in practice. Like this is ridiculous. So it's how you push yourself, and that doesn't even just, that's not even in basketball. I think that it just translates into my normal life too. It's like every little thing I'm hard on myself. Now that I'm working a 9-to-5 job, it's like I still have an athlete mindset about everything. I'm at work and I'm like, I'm not doing good enough. I'm not working hard enough. And it's like sometimes like it's okay, like just to sit back and just enjoy and relax. Like at all times I'm like super hard on myself when it's like I'm doing a great job. I can just sit back and enjoy the ride. Not everything is going to be perfect. So it's finding that balance too for myself, because like you said, it's like I am extremely hard on myself when it comes to things that probably shouldn't be that serious.
Hey Lauren, were you an obsessive dominating in that what coach was saying?
I don't know if I would say dominating as in like my domination to win was my main mindset. My mindset for myself was being the best shooter on the court. Every time I step on the court, that's what I would tell myself when I was nervous. Every single time I step on the court, those nerves would come, and I tell myself, no matter what game it is, what situation, I go, I'm the best shooter on this court right now. No one can stop me. So I think that's where my domination mindset comes on, is how I carry myself on the court. Obviously, always trying to go for the win. I'm a competitor at the end of the day, so I guess it's innate in me too to have that. But my mindset every time I step on that court is I tell myself I'm the best shooter right now on this court, just to get my mind ready for any doubts I ever have in myself. That puts me up right for success right from the jump.
Good question, Paul. Let's kind of pivot a little bit, and I wonder if you would talk a little bit about what an athlete in high school should be doing if they're maybe freshman, sophomore, somewhere in there, and they have these visions of, I might be able to make a run at a college, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 division. What are the kinds of things they should be doing in their day-to-day life to prepare for that, right? Training wise, like how much training, how often should they be training? And then what kinds of, is it like I'm going to the gym with my friends training, or is it I'm with a trainer training, or and then maybe if you wouldn't mind throwing onto there, because a lot of these kids are playing on AAU teams besides their high school teams, like a bonus would be, how do they pick an appropriate AAU team? Like, what are the things they should be looking for in an AAU team to help get them to that place?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it has changed so much from when I was in the recruiting process to today's high schoolers in the recruiting process. Because if I speak for myself, again, my parents, I was the first child, and the only one who, it was more so me pushing my parents to be like, Mom, Dad, I want to play for this club team. I don't know anything about it, but I just want to play. And so like, sure, like we'll take you to the games. Like it was kind of just like a fun thing for them, where for me, it was the one I was like the pusher of like, I'm getting a scholarship for myself. And they're like, okay, like you do what you want. So it really depends on your situation. And again, that was me driving it. But for others in today's recruiting process, I really see it's heavy on the training. It's heavy on the personal trainers. It's it's making sure you're doing the right things outside of the court. Because the game is so much more intense, I feel like right now at that high school level, the competition continues to rise and get stronger, and players are better and better. So it comes down to, yeah, how are you training? Who are you training with? Are they setting you up with the right contacts, the right types of training? And to go into deciding on the club team, for me, it was connection based and also playing time based. I found a club team in Arizona Elite who believed in me right from the very first tryout. I'll never forget it. There was about 90 girls at this tryout. We had 5 full courts of all just scrimmage games going on. And I was like, I'm not making this team. I think they took 10 for their top 10 Adidas team. They were taking 10 girls. I said, okay, there's 90 of us here. Let's see if I can make it. And it was on the first day of the tryouts, I had the head coach for the travel team, the top 10 Adidas team, come up to me and go, if you want a spot on the roster, you got it. And I said, dream come true. And it was right there. I knew, like, I picked the right spot. I picked a team, a club team that has all the connections in the world. Every single one of their players from the past 10 years before I got there, if you made that top 10 Adidas team, you were going D1 basically. So I knew that I was in good hands where I was going to be pushed in practice that really were similar to what a college practice is like. And I think that because of that, that is why I was ready for college. Because yeah, the college practices were another level of intensity that even from club, but I was not always ready for. So freshman year was for sure a learning experience because of how intense you have with school, on top of film, on top of weights, on top of conditioning, individual workouts, and then finally the team practices every day. So yeah, it all matters, and it's pushing yourself at that young age, because I didn't have that. I didn't have the personal trainers, the strength and conditioning while I was in high school. And when I got to college, I was in for quite the surprise.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast the development has been at the high school level and how good athletes are at the high school level. And it is because of those things that they have trainers, and whether it be, weights or just like skills based trainers. I'm often taken back. I'll show up to different places to do training myself. And sometimes I'm waiting for another trainer to come off the court, or one will be coming on after me, and I'll stay and watch. And I think I feel for parents, because the word trainer it's very loosely sort of, it's in the ether, right? Sometimes I see trainers who are doing like conditioning, agility training, right? And so sometimes families go to agility trainers. It's there, but under the premise of basketball. So they might be doing a lot of speed and agility work and a little bit of maybe shooting or something. That maybe is the skill work I see as something I learned when I was in high school. It's not like the modern, up to date, most recent, I don't know, skill work. And then I'll see other trainers where it's solely focused on ball handling. And so there's a bunch of ball handling moves and attacks at the rim, but no finishes at the rim, right? So and I see that as a high school coach, when kids show up on my team, they've got great handles, but there's no decision making at the point of attack, at the rim, and there's no ability to read. Or I'll see kids that have a lot of agility that can't dribble, right? So I see the things that I'm watching from trainers, and I wonder if you would just maybe comment a little bit, for you, if you were sending a kid to a trainer, or you were recommending, like, what would you say to a parent? Like, these are the things that you need to look for in a trainer for your athlete. Like, what are the kinds of things they should be teaching?
Yeah, I'd say if we're speaking basketball, because there's 2 aspects to it now that I personally also am really big on and heavy on. The basketball aspect of it is taking your strengths refining them, tuning them up, but also pushing you outside of your comfort zone. I think a trainer that pushes you outside of your comfort zone and makes you take shots or do moves that you weren't able to do before, and you can leave later being able to do that and producing that in a game, that's really like what it's all about, is being able to use what your innate skill, refining, tuning them up, but giving you different things to add to your tool set, your skill set, to help explode your game to another level. The second piece, which I'm very big on now, is what you kind of mentioned earlier, the sports science, the sports performance aspect that I did not have at the high school level, but now in my life is so important, especially post ACL injury, is the injury prevention. It is so important these days because ACL tears are too common, knock on wood. It's just too unfortunate how many injuries happen that should never obviously have happened. And so I personally work here in Arizona with Ortho Arizona. Who really introduced me to the sports science and the importance of it post-injury, because I'm telling you now that my knee and my ability to jump and move at 26 post an ACL injury is better than I was prime 22 in college, or 20, whatever I was in college when I was shooting the lights out. It's like I've shot better this year in Spain at 25, 26. Knee felt better than ever. My ability to jump out the court, like I could never even do a 30, 33, 36 inch box jump, and now I do that with my eyes closed. So it's incredible to see my growth as a player and what I'm capable of due to, well thought out sports science movements. Like you said, that's a combo of weightlifting, agility, plyometrics that sets you up for game-like movements, so that when you go out there in the game and you make a cut, your body is in position and can handle the impacts, because basketball is a nonstop cutting and moving and change of direction sport that the body needs to be trained on. Like your body needs to have that muscle memory to be able to make those type of movements in an athletic and powerful way.
Okay, I love that. Let's take an example of it's out of season, right? You're not in high school basketball season, meaning like for your high school, maybe you're doing AAU. What's maybe an ideal regiment in terms of skill work, maybe some teamwork if you're playing in an AAU team, and then like sports science work where you're doing speed, agility, and mobility?
I'd say off season for me consists of, so I'll speak like directly from my schedule. I do Monday, Wednesday, Fridays with my weight and plyometrics trainer. I do that every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's probably about an hour and a half's worth of actual weights and plyometric work. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday would be just the weights and plyometrics. Tuesdays, Thursdays is more agility and movement based work. So that's like my sprint work, my cutting mechanics, and then also with conditioning on those days. Shooting is almost every day for me too. I just love being in the gym. So I shoot to try to get 250 to 300 makes in a day. That's if I have a good rebounder that day. If not, then it varies, but it depends on my situations. But yeah, it depends. So it's really just, and that's again because I love it. I don't even have a contract right now. I'm not signed to any team. I just love the game. I love to train. I love it. It's in my blood. It's my mentality. So I can't really get that out of me. I think that'll be with me forever. When I'm, I don't know, 50 years old, I'm still going to want to be in the gym. So I'm going to want to be shooting and playing every day. So exactly. Like I just know it's part of me forever. And it's a grind. It's for sure a grind, but it's the grind that I love. So can't get enough of it.
All right. Yeah, I'm curious if you talk a little bit about this year. I think I've told you, I also suffered an ACL tear a couple years ago, and then this year MCL. And I really, for me, chalk that up as a lot of it mobility, lack of mobility, especially in the 55-year age bracket. But an athlete that I was working with last year and coach last year, he had an ACL tear this year too. And in talking to him, he had come to the same conclusion. I need to do more mobility and flexibility work. Could you talk a little bit about that, and if you're doing that now, and what you're doing, and is that all kind of built into your plyo and post plyo and those sorts of things?
Yeah, that's what it all is built into, because during my rehab process, when I finally was, at that stage, that, what is it, like the 7-8 month stage of, okay, I can start really pushing myself, strength wise, weight wise, mobility wise, to get my full range of motion and everything back to where it was and better. That's where it was. And now that's why I have to continue that for forever and ever. Is I need to make sure I still have strong quads, strong glutes, the right cutting mechanics. I'm able to do hurdle hops to a box consistently, fast, repetitive, and land with my knee in the right position. And that comes with training. If I were to stop for a month and then try to go do those same plyometrics, my form and my speed and my agility ability to do it would diminish largely. So it just becomes a natural thing for me to do it every day, because it's something my body needs to be able to stay at the level to play that I want to be at, as well as my knee, my health of my knees, and the health of my body, to make sure that I don't have another injury like that again.
Okay, I love it. I think that fits right in with what I was thinking, and probably not enough high school athletes are doing those sorts of things.
I wasn't at that age either. So yeah, I know. And it's even more so, I feel like, a common injury than it was back when I was in high school. It was not really that heard of, in college, I had 5 girls throughout my 4 years, go down with it. So it's for sure something that needs to be taken seriously. And it's doing those injury prevention workouts that really help your body be prepared for unorthodox movements in a game.
Yeah, I think as we see more athletes competing at a higher level for longer periods of time during the year, if you don't have the infrastructure to carry your body that long, you see more and more of these violent injuries that way.
Yeah, your body can't handle it at some point, and it just gives out. And that's where I think it happened to me in Spain, really. Is I went from 4 years of college basketball where my strength and conditioning program was intense. I was doing the preventative stuff every day. In my first year in Spain, I didn't have that same structure, because professional basketball is a little different over there than it is the college lifestyle here. So I saw the difference in my body and my legs. I really slimmed out, but in a way that wasn't best for my strength. My strength wise was I lost all my strength in my quads, and boom, knee went out. So it was definitely like a turning point. I think something that had to happen for me that really pushed me to work more than I was there. I was kind of in a content spot. I think I've talked to you about that too, Gabriel, is that when I was my first year in Spain, I was like, I made it, my dream, here I am, it's done. And it's like, oh, got taken away from me in one bad step. So it's like, I got to go back to work now for a full year and see if I can get back to where I wanted to be. So it's for sure a challenge, but it was all worth it. And I think it all happens for a reason. So
the athlete that's in this
Can I
place,
have coach, can I ask a question really quick?
Paul?
Yeah, my boy is 6 years old. When should he start doing like strength training and plyometrics? And I think stretching, he does a little stretching before he plays, but is there anything else he should be doing? Or at what age do you think I should start implementing that for him?
I truly don't think at 6 he needs to even worry about that. I was just talking to my manager actually about this yesterday at work. He has a 10-year-old who's playing basketball, and I'm like, just have fun with it at that age. You do not want to burn out these young kids at such an early age with pressures of college at that age, or strength and conditioning, or this is how it has to be done. At that age, they just need to find their love, their groove for it on their own. I always tell everyone to let them shoot, teach them the mechanics, the foundations of the game, yes, but kind of let them with their shot, experiment with their shot, because everyone's shot is different. But if you can be consistent with it, I don't touch anyone's form when they're already 16, 17 years old. They've been shooting that way for the past 10 years. So it's like, I'm not changing that unless it's not working. If it's working, then stick with it. So I say at that age, you got to enjoy the game. You don't want to take their love away from the game at a young age. Just let them have fun with it. Honestly, that's what it's all about. That's why I still play, is I have fun. If the second I stop having fun, I'm not playing anymore.
Yeah, that's Paul's heard that same thing from me. Where it's like, hey, just let them have fun out here.
Yes, yes, I have.
There's a lot of research at the middle school area, like for kids. Why did you stop playing sports? Why did you stop doing this thing? And it's always kids. The reason is always it was no longer any fun, and that's almost crazy to hear at a middle school age. Like, you're not having fun playing this, and the add-on to that research is why. What was no longer fun? Well, it was too serious, or my coach was angry with me, right? And we've seen, like, I see this all the time at even youth rec basketball, where like it's someone's parent who's coaching, and as adults we're foolish. Like, sometimes we live vicariously through our kids, or we have this, our own ego is hurt when we see our own child not. Believe me, I was his parent, right? Where I saw my son not performing as good as I knew he could perform, and somehow that's like on me, right? That's like, I'm not performing that way. Instead of saying like, oh, this is a great opportunity for him to learn, to adjust, and to grow, and to figure it out, right? And to just be the person to ask the question, hey, what went well? What didn't go well? But so coaches, well-meaning parents and well-meaning coaches sometimes make it no longer fun, and that's what sort of wipes out the joy of the sport, right? And so that idea of like, just let them go, teach the fundamentals, but they need to just, Paul, and if I could talk a little bit about Matthew, what I love about you bringing him every Friday is what is being anchored for Matthew is this tempo of, I'm coming to a place routinely, and I know you guys work out too, the two of you. I'm coming to this place routinely, and I'm putting in some work, and that work is fun, and I'm enjoying this sort of cycle of being here. Versus the kid who like, they're being forced. By the time they're in high school, they dread going to practice. They can't wait for it to end. They're being forced in the car. You want your, as a mental skills coach, I want my athletes to be in this place. Like, can we go a little bit earlier? Can we get there? It's a little bit more I want to work on, because they're having fun about the dominating, right? They're having fun about like being the best, taking the most shots, taking the best shots, taking the hardest shots, because they enjoy being there. If they don't enjoy being there, they're going to do the bare minimum when they're there. And they're going to do just enough for a parent or just enough for a coach until it's over. So one of the things that I'll just throw this out there for everybody, that the hard way was, I started asking my younger son, who was playing, when he started playing AU, more competitive basketball, and I was coaching that team. It was like my private time in the car with him to and from practices. And so it became a routine habit for me. We didn't talk about basketball in the car. I would turn on a soundtrack, like, just 80s soundtrack, and we would lay out like the opening scene of a movie to that soundtrack, right? We're like, this is what the movie would be. There's nothing to do with basketball. We just had a blast doing it. And that has still been an anchor of like our good time together, getting to and from. So that the anchor of this good time getting to and from practice was important. But in those moments when we were wrapping that up, either coming home or going to practice, I always would ask, are you having fun? Because if you're not having fun, let's do something else. Because
so agree.
Like, so I think
no, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Paul, like, that back to kind of like praise you, bringing him to those practices, and every time he leaves, he gets there, he's happy, he leaves, he's happy, he's hugging everybody. You're just doing him such a great service of just getting him there and letting him enjoy that space.
Yeah, I would say that all revolves around like what the name of this call is, the unstoppable mindset, and that's giving having that mindset, that healthy, happy, positive mindset translates so much to the game. A great example that, Gabriel, I don't know if I've told you this one, like it was in Spain this last year, was my the first half of the season, the coach that brought me out there, I was having a hard time because I wasn't playing and I was struggling mentally, and I was like, I'm not having fun. Like, I'm not enjoying my practices. I'm not playing. I'm not producing well because there was just a lot of tension with the coach that I had at that time, and I wasn't performing well. And I was like, this is my job right now. I'm here to perform playing professional basketball in Spain, and I mentally was shot. I was not in a good spot. And Christmas break came, first game back. We had a brand new coach coming back from Christmas break. That first game was when I dropped 36 points and 10 threes. And you say, why? My mind. I walked onto that court with a free mind, with a positive energy that I didn't have in that first half of the season in Spain because I wasn't there mentally. I was checked out. But that feeling of being free and positive and going into that game with a fresh mindset with a new coach, it helped me shoot the lights out. And it was like 36 points. Next game was 26 points. Next game was 25. So it was like, and that was, nothing changed in me as a player, skill wise. It was just my mind. And again, that could have been coaching related. I never want to put down a coach. Every single coach in my life has helped me become the player I am today, but there was issues there that I didn't align with. So then when the next one came, I changed my way. In college, the same thing happened. There was times where coaches weren't the best for me. But I pushed all that aside. And at the end of the day, like, I'm going to go out there and play the way I know how to play. So again, that comes down to just having the right mindset. And at a young age, I'm grateful that my parents didn't, overwhelm me or put crazy amount of pressure at me at a very young age, because who knows if I would have continued playing. So I don't know. I'm just grateful that I was able to continue to play and have fun. And I put that pressure on myself. And I think that's what most of your kids will do too, is, if they want it bad enough, they're going to work hard enough to get there.
Awesome. I'm going to kind of paint a different scenario picture here, and maybe you could speak to your input on these kinds of scenarios. So the other phone calls I get sometimes are from athletes who they're in their first or second year of college and they're starting to struggle. And you kind of sort of hit on this with you being a pro this year. And they're struggling for a number of reasons. One, it's like overwhelming. Right. I think you alluded to it, like, man, I wasn't prepared for what's happening in college. Not only you're not prepared for like the intensity of things, but then you throw onto it classes and school and the social aspect. Like, it's like drinking water through the life's fire hose when you go to college.
Yeah.
Hard to do. And so oftentimes there's conflict either with coach or conflict with other players. For those younger players when they're coming, I haven't learned how to navigate that yet. And I'll kind of expand on this in a second, but I wonder if you just maybe talk a little bit about how you survive those early days in college, and then, like, how do you, if you were in a situation where, everyone who goes to college was a starter somewhere, right? And then they get to college and they're not. So that's a hard thing to overcome too. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, that was for sure one of the toughest parts of that transition from senior year of high school to freshman year of college, because like you said, there's 5 of us in my freshman class. So all 5 of us just came from different states, and we were the best player on our respective high schools. So we come in there like, we're the best. Then we get in there and you have seniors who are like, no, like, sit down. This is our team. You're here now, but like, you're bottom of the chain right now. So it's for sure a hard transition, especially like you said, with school on top of playing, because it's a whole nother level of intensity when you're playing, whether it's D1, D2, D3, JUCO. It's all very intense. And I'll never forget, my first practice, it was at Denver, obviously, and I'm 5 minutes in and I'm already hyperventilating because the altitude, and I can't even breathe. And we've just started 5 minutes in, and I'm like, I'm not going to survive 4 years. Like, I can't even go up and down. So it's for sure it's a mental battle of pushing through, and don't let any of those outside factors let you quit. And I'll never forget, it was us 5 freshmen, and one of the seniors had come up to us and goes, "Oh, that's so cute. All 5 of you are best friends right now. But I guarantee you, 4 years from now, it will not be you same 5 standing here graduating as seniors." And we were like, "Oh, yes, we are. We're here forever. This is the Fab 5. We'll be here." Come that senior year, 2 of us left from that same 5, So there's so much transition and movement at the college level, just because, some people can't handle it. Some people do quit. People transfer. Things happen. So it's for sure a grind that I think that until you're in it, you don't realize how intense it really is, from 6 a.m. conditioning every day to you have to do 6 hours, 8 hours of study hall a week, to traveling with being gone for months at a time without being able to attend a class, but you still have exams you have to take. So it really teaches you how to manage your time and not procrastinate, and figuring out the best lifestyle for you to still be a successful student as well as a successful athlete.
I like to make almost a bit of an analogy between high school and college. Is in high school, you're still enjoying the sport for the sport of things, and then in college, it becomes your job, and that's a different flavor. Can you talk a little bit about how if it felt that way for you too, and how you adapted to that, the difference between, hey, I'm just going out here kind of for fun, and this is fun, but it's still a job to do, and there's some expectations that I maybe didn't have before.
Yeah, like you said, college basketball is a job. You're getting a scholarship. So like my scholarship was worth well over $250,000. So yes, it is my job because they're paying for me. They cover my entire school, living, housing, everything was handled for. So for that reason, in trade, yes, I'm giving up my life to this sport. So yeah, it's for sure a transition, because like you said, in high school, I was having fun with it. I watched videos back of my high school, and I'm like, I wasn't even running up and down the court, but I was still scoring 40 because it's high school. And now in college, I'm like struggling to go up and down the court. So it's a tough transition, but it's just a part of the game. And that's when you can really push yourself and excel and see if, hey, can I do this? Was I meant for this? So yeah, it was the greatest experience, honestly, ever. And even through the hard times, the days I wanted to quit, I was like, nope, just keep on pushing. You just got to keep on pushing through.
And would you say that was the thing that drove the success of the 2 of you that stayed there? Is it just the resiliency to just keep doing it?
The resiliency to, yes, push through all the adversity and coaching changes. Some of that had to do with injuries. Some of that had to do with, people leaving because of injuries, people leaving because they're unhappy with their playing time. So people unhappy because they couldn't keep up with the school as well as the rigorous training schedules. So the couple of us that made it all the way through, it was our work ethic and our mentality and our ability to push through those tough times. Because there was so many mornings at 5 a.m. when I heard that alarm and I had to go run a mile and try to make it in 6 minutes and 30 seconds that I'm still scarred from this day, where I'm like, I don't want to do it, but it's like I still had to get up there and do it. So it's for sure just pushing through those days and showing up on the days you don't want to the most.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's helpful for young athletes here, especially if they're thinking about, like, I really want to make this push. What does it take to get me to that place? And then what are the expectations when I get there?
Yeah.
Kind of coming to the end of our time, but I didn't want to leave without talking to you about one last thing, and that's culture, especially on a basketball team. Could you describe for you and your experiences in playing at different levels, what culture means and its importance?
Yeah, I think the culture of a team is extremely important in the overall outcome and success of a season. I've been on teams where we've had great chemistry, great coaching staffs, but we didn't produce results game wise. I've had the vice versa where there was a lot of drama or coaching drama, but we produced good results as a team. So there's times where it works out and there's times where it doesn't. I think the best way for a team to be successful is when the coaching staff and the players are on the same page. I've seen a lot of divide from players and coaching staffs where it's almost like they're competing against each other when, hey, we're on the same team. I want to have that same respect for my player and my coach. I want my coach to yell at me, push me, criticize me, whatever he wants or she wants to say to me. But the second I step off that court, I know that he or she has my back. And I think that's like the best culture, best scenario is that when coaches really strive and push for the best out of each one of their players, with great intentions in mind, that's when I've always noticed the best results, and that healthy activity, that healthy competition in a practice where I have someone defending me with their full power, full strength, and it's not out of spite to try to hurt me or try to put me down. It's they're guarding me with everything they have because they know in the game I'm going to have people clawing me with their nails and arms, not letting me get a shot off. So it all works together when we're pushing each other as one whole unit. That's when a team is successful.
Yeah, that's this idea of iron sharpening iron, right? That and this happens in practices a lot at the high school level where we tend to go easy or half speed, and then in games we are not ready for the intensity of someone playing us at game speed, and that gets that notion you said earlier, like shooting at game like scenarios. I love that idea of at all of our workouts. I usually, if I say we're going to play some one-on-one or two-on-two just to work on the particular skill or something we're doing, find someone that will push you. Don't match up with the easy match. Find someone that's going to push you, because if they're not, then you're not going to get better. You're going to get place skill and get there. In terms of culture, how can you think of some things? And I'll give you a couple of things that I think about. Maybe that'll spark maybe a few thoughts. Some things that are important to culture in a team. And so some of those things for me are, if we're in the DC area, so it's easy to be late because there's traffic out the yin here. But if you're late and you come into the gym late, come with a sense of urgency. Like, we want to have a sense of urgency about everything we do. That's getting from station to station, from place to place, with a sense of urgency. Come with energy, right? Be the person that injects energy into the gym, not the person who steals it. And I call those energy vampires, if you're sucking the energy out, right?
Yeah.
Those are two examples. I'm going to think of some other examples that maybe those are other things like that feed into a team's culture.
I think those are two great ones, sense of urgency and energy. And off that, when you said those two, the first one that came to my mind was being able to hold each other accountable. So, for example, we had a teammate come late to practice in Spain. It wasn't even the coach that had to yell at her. It was another teammate of mine who was like, hey, you can't do that. We're all here on time. Don't let it happen again. And it's being able to have that connection or that relationship to feel comfortable enough to do that. And I'd say me as a player too, I'm not someone who, I don't yell at people. I don't fight back. I don't talk back. I'm like a yes girl. Like, I'm not going to really get into a conflict. But there was a situation in Spain where, I was like, I don't agree. And I wasn't afraid to hold that back and show my expressions, show my feelings, hold my other teammate accountable for, hey, like, listen to my side here. And it's being able to have that healthy conflict, confrontation, working as a team. It's what makes us closer, honestly. So I'd say that is really big in an overall culture of a team too.
Yeah. Player-led teams are more effective than led teams. And I like to think, and I teach this a lot to our athletes, that I can't be the person who brings energy, nor can I be the person that's sort of driving the team culture. That's something that you do as players. I'm there to coach. And if I'm bringing the energy or if I'm leading the team culture, then I'm not coaching and I'm not doing my job. So I'm less of a I'm less of an asset to the team in that way. So in terms of player-led teams, are there other things like in that you would think that as players, as young players, you could start to develop to bring to your team to help your team be a player-led team, like holding each other accountable for things like, hey, we need to be here on time. Hey, I'm in the back of the line. I need to be clapping and telling other people to be clapping. Hey, let's bring the energy. Because especially the high school level, there's not a, that like there's I like to think that there's two things that kill culture. It's too coolness and too shyness.
Yeah.
Those are culture killers, right? So anyway, I wondered if you might talk a little bit about that, if you can think of anything else that, like, these are the things that are really important for us as players to be the level setters or the standard setters of what we want from a team, and not let the coach be the person that has to dictate that to us.
Yeah, I'd say for one, it's being able to have the open communication with everyone on your team, knowing that everyone has a voice on this team. There's not just one or two that kind of run the entire energy or form of the team. It's really everyone can have a voice and speak their mind. So having that, and then as well as setting that standard on the first day. I think that's super important, is that a culture can't be one way and then flip the next day to something else. It really matters how it starts, and having that high intensity, setting those goals on the first day as a team is like, are we all on the same page? Are we all here for the same reasons? Do we all want the same outcomes? Because if some don't, some do, they're never going to align. And that starts from day one. We could have day one practice. Everyone's kind of like, oh, sluggish, not clapping, not talking. That already set the standard for the season. From day one, you need to come in with that energy, setting that standard of, this is a high intensity day. We come here, we work very hard, we give it our all every day. Every practice should feel harder than game from day one. Because once you set it, if you start low, you start, hey, whatever, it's easy. Transitioning to high intensity is almost impossible to change everyone's mentality to that high standard unless it starts from day one.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. It's such an awesome way to say it. When I'm invited to come in and do an evaluation of a team's culture, weird word can kind of get mixed up sometimes. I think you did such an eloquent job of kind of hitting on what I call the behaviors of the values, right? Mm-hmm. So the team, just the values, like what value? We value intensity, we value hard work, we value timeliness, we value pushing one another, we value honesty. Like those are our values as a unit, as a program. And that's what we say our values are as players. Then the trick is, what are the behaviors that we're going to have that meet those values? Like, if it's like, we're going to be timely, what does that mean? What are the behaviors that means? I mean, so we may be understandably late once in a while, something might happen, but as soon as I get in here, I'm with urgency or whatever it is, right? Like any of those things that I want to have the behaviors to match the values. And that's when you start getting to a place of everyone is bought into the same culture, because the behaviors match it. And it's behaviors like, we treat each other with respect and dignity in here, but I'm going to hold you accountable. And I expect you to hold me accountable, right? And I'm going to be okay. I'm a grown up about you holding. Hey, that was a terrible shot. You didn't have range, rhythm, or room, or you had 2, but you didn't have 3. And I have to be okay with it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I didn't have the range, right? I was a little bit out. I didn't have room. That was a contested shot. I'm looking for an uncontested shot. But if you can turn your values into behaviors on and off the court, that's where value really starts happening. And at high school level, I really push this, because if we have integrity on the basketball court about and things we do, and we're not splitting the corners or cutting corners, or if we're doing 10 push-ups, we're doing 10 push-ups. That same behavior represents our program in the hallway of the school, right? Like, I can't cut corners on an assignment. I can't cheat on something else, because that represents the entire program. So the culture, I think we often hear a lot about it. We got to have good culture, but we oftentimes misunderstand. It's just values. Mm-hmm. But the players is our behaviors, like how we are going to act out the values, and what do those look like, and we have to hold each other accountable for those. I'm so passionate about this idea of culture because I think it's the thing that drives these teams to have repeatable performances. And when you can hold a teammate accountable and your teammate can go, yeah, you're right, I kind of did cut it on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're with each other. And when you're honest with each other, then you're okay. This is how it impacts performance because you know that if you take a good shot and you miss, they got your back because they know it's a
Mm-hmm.
good shot. Whatever the thing, the value that you came up with, they know you're good, right? But if you don't ever have that conflict and not comfortable with that conflict or the corrective action of it, and this is the culture is for the betterment of the program, betterment of us as a team, so we can have success. Then you're really getting somewhere. But if you're not, you end up with those situations where sometimes we perform well, but the culture's bad, or the culture's good, but but performance is bad. You end up with these weird kind of mixes in there. And please add to that if you have anything else you want to throw into culture.
No, I am right on with you because again, it's not everyone's going to be a vocal leader, right? You're going to have leaders in different forms in different ways, and you need your vocal leaders. You need your leaders that are going to be doing the dirty work, the hard work, the every little thing, all those little different pieces of people's personalities and characteristics, how they carry themselves, are what make a team so special. And I just think of the team in Spain too as like, I'm American. I speak English. Luckily, I do speak Spanish, but my coach didn't speak, a lot of English until the new coach came. So it's like I'm dealing with Spanish. We had French players, German players, only Spanish speaking players. We have a team with 5 different languages that are spoken predominantly on the court. So we have to find ways to be able to communicate with each other and be on the same page. So it's pretty amazing to see how a group of us 5 on a court at one time could have all different first languages, but we're out there communicating with each other in some way or some form.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Something that most people don't think about playing an international team, right?
Yeah.
Communication. The very last thing is, and I'll let you have the last word on this, just to comment on it. Every team I've ever coached, when we talk about success, I just define success in 3 terms. It's preparation plus execution plus effort. When you have those 3 things together, you end up with success. If you don't prepare, you're not going to be successful. If you don't execute on your game plan or you don't execute on your preparation, you're not going to be successful. If your effort's low and you have preparation and one of those elements of the stool is not there, success won't be there. I'm wondering if you have any insights with respect to that you would like to add or say, hey, I have a slightly different twist on that. I think athletes to hear what it takes to be successful, whether it be a team or them individually, because I think a lot of times we have ideas, young athletes have ideas about, I want to play here or I want to make this team, but they're missing one of those elements of preparation plus execution plus effort. A lot of times it's preparation. But if you'd comment on that a little.
Yeah. I mean, I think that all of those are such important parts of the game and what every player strives to have and wants. But at the end of the day, when you're lacking at one of those is are you playing hard? Like, are you giving it your all? And I think whether you're having a great game or a bad game, like leaving it all in the court, are you playing hard, playing together with your teammates, and really just going out there with the confidence, whether you're missing or making, is really what makes a team successful. I just think about myself personally too, is just, what's brought me so much success is just never taking no as an answer. And that's like my biggest piece of advice for any player out there is if you want to be successful, just never let someone tell you no. Like I said at the beginning, right when the beginning of this call was, I'm always the shortest, the slowest, the weakest, whatever it is. Like that was I came in as a freshman, like didn't even know how to bench press the barbell. So I was like, I couldn't do the 45-pound bar, and I was completely embarrassed because the other freshmen were like, you've never barbell bench press before? And I was like, no, like I don't know what I'm doing. And so it's just like through all of that, it's like but I always believed, I was like, I don't care if I can't do that, like I'll learn how to do it, I'll push myself to do it. So it's just never taking that no and just keep working on it, because I truly believe if you want it bad enough, you can make it happen.
I love it. I call that find a way.
Yeah,
Like
Find a way, yeah. I was like, I'll find a way to get this barbell up at some point. I don't care if I can't do it now.
Yeah. Well, thinking no for an answer, and so that's the
Yeah.
find a way. I love it. That is a key component of a peak performer for sure, which you embody 100%. Does anyone have any questions for Lauren? I know Paul, you maybe have a couple, or maybe ask them, Anderson or Isaiah.
Yeah, I got a question. And I think I've told Coach Maxwell this. My boy's 6'6", going to 7 in May. He enjoys playing basketball. I'm like, oh, you have fun. He's like, I have fun. But at times, if he misses 3 shots in a row, 4 shots in a row, he has like this little tantrum. He might cry a little bit and then he'll leave. Or if someone steals the ball, he might get angry. I know he has that mentality, like, I don't like to lose, I don't like to make a mistake. And I always tell him, oh, it's okay. But is there anything else I can do as a parent to reinforce, like, I don't want him to cry every time he's on the court, but he enjoys it. So it's kind of like, I don't know what, I'm kind of struggling still with that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of how I was at that age, and my first thought of was, I think it's actually a really good thing that he's like that, because that means he cares. I think that he's showing, like, even at a 6-year-old self missing 3 shots and he's upset, it shows that he cares that he's missing those 3 shots and he wants to be making them. I've seen so many 6-year-old, 7-year-old kids, they're going to keep throwing up 10 threes and they're just be like, whatever, it didn't go in. Like, they don't necessarily care. They're just chucking it up there. So I think that shows his mentality. And like you said, how he wants to get better. The tears will go away eventually if he's at a young age, but I think the tears are a little bit of a foreshadowing of what he's going to be like in the future, of how hard he wants to work, and being hard on himself at a young age. That's gonna excel for him come in the high school years too. So I'd say now, just like what you're doing, like instilling that confidence in him and just being like, hey, it's okay. Next shot's going in. Next shot's going in. It's always that next shot mentality, and be like, that's fine. They steal it from you. Go get it back from them. There was a time where I went up for a 3, and boom, I got blocked down to the ground. I didn't stay sat down though. I got right back up and I chased her all the way down and blocked her layup on the other side. So it's having that mindset and trying to trigger that, just because someone blocks you doesn't mean you can't go now and block them back. So that's kind of like the biggest transition there.
Also, another question. This is kind of off topic, but who are some of your NBA players that you were watching, or who's the greatest basketball player that you feel that you've ever seen on TV or emulated or anything like that?
Yeah, I'd say the best basketball players that I've ever seen that I love to watch. My favorite player is Devin Booker, but go Phoenix Suns. That's who I'll stand by forever. But Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, the shooters of the league, are people who I watched heavily, and still do, just because that's my way of learning. When I was 10, 12 years old, I was watching the NBA. I was watching Steve Nash play. That was who I was like looking up to at that age. So it was watching them and seeing their mechanics, their work ethic, how they train, they practice, what really helped me see what it takes to be an elite shooter. And so those are some of the people that I watched, and I got the chance to watch some of their practices in real life, and just seeing how they train, it really amazes me and pushes me always to work harder too. So those are some of the biggest players for me that I've aspired to be like.
And hey, shout out to Devin Booker and Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I'll throw him in there.
I mean, don't forget, the old school guys like Barkley and the old Suns.
Yeah, my old son, I didn't get the chance to see Barkley, but Steve Nash, Sotomayor, that duo, that was prime Suns right there for me.
Did Stoudemire play at U of A?
I believe so. I think he did, yeah.
He might have been there when I was there. I'll tell you how old I was. Any other questions for Lauren?
Yeah, I got one. Out of the WNBA, which player would you say you like learned a skill from?
So I'd say my idol growing up for the WNBA was Diana Taurasi, being she's obviously played for the Phoenix Mercury her whole career. She was my main idol growing up, someone I really, really wanted to be like. I mean, she's done everything for the sport. She's 42 years old and she's still going strong and the best shooter on the Phoenix Mercury to this right now. So she is what really paved my way of thinking like, hey, this can be something for me that I can pursue long term. Whether I make it to the WNBA or not, that's fine. But yeah, just seeing her ability to stick with the game for such a long time when the WNBA was not popular, not the way it is today, thanks to good old Caitlin Clark, who has completely changed this game for the better, which is amazing to see. The growth and the progress of the league is astonishing, which I'm so grateful and proud of, because women's basketball has been this great for this long. It's just finally getting the views and the recognition that it deserves. So Diana Taurasi from day one is for sure what sparked my light and love for the game.
Good question, Isaiah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I got one more.
All right.
What is your greatest strength in basketball?
Good question. I'd say performance-wise, for sure, the three-point shot. That would be my greatest addition to the score sheet. That's my greatest strength there. But I'd say my greatest strength outside of that is just my ability to connect with my teammates and bring a positive energy to the court. Yes, I can produce points on a score sheet, but I think my value add is really who I am as a person. Because that speaks louder than just the points on the score sheet, right? If I was someone that didn't get along with my teammates and they didn't respect me, those points wouldn't matter. I'll always remember when I did get hurt in Spain and I had to go home because I just torn my ACL. The coach said, you know what, like you're worth more than gold because of who you are as a person, and we would always take you back to this team because of that. And that really like stuck in my brain forever, is just that is what matters most in this world, is who you are as a person and how you treat others around you. And the results on the score sheet will show for themselves if you have that part of your game too.
Yeah, I got another. Oh, sorry, Zay.
No, you're good. You're good. Good.
Yeah, I had another question. At what level do you see? I hear this a lot. I didn't play at like a high school or college level, but I'm like really into basketball. But I hear this a lot where it's like they're like, oh, to make that team, he was the best rebounder he was the best at what he does, like the role. At what age do you see that? Or do you see that at high school, college? Like what role is like, you know how they say you gotta know your role, but like at what age do you really see like you have to be the best at this to get to this level? Like you have to be the best 3-point shooter to get to that college level, or the best defender. Like Patrick Beverly is like a defender, and he's like he has to be the best to be in the NBA. You know what I mean?
He's got to be the biggest pest in the NBA.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when do you really see that? At like what age? I know like as a parent, I'm seeing my boy. I want him to be the best at everything of the basketball. But like at what age do you see that? Or is that a bad question? Or
no, I think that's a great question. I think in high school it starts to form, but it's not solidified in high school, because when you're really good at a young age in high school, you're doing all positions. You could be a post and you're bringing the point guard because you're the only one who can handle the ball in high school. But I'd say then, to best answer your question, it's really college where those roles really form to your playing time and your position based. Like in college is when I was predominantly the two. I was the shooting guard. That was my role on the team, is I was the two. I'd only bring up the ball here and there if I needed to, because we had a strong one. So, but in high school, I was the one, I was the two, I was the three. I would even sometimes post up, so because as a 5'8" guard in high school, I was pretty big. So It varies, but I think college is when it really stands out as to like, okay, I have a solidified role in my team. And then obviously at the professional overseas level is you are hired to do what you're good at at that level.
Good question, Paul.
Hi,
Anyone
Lauren.
else?
I have a question for you. And I had to step out for a little bit. I apologize if you've already answered this question, but I'm new to the whole sports parent thing, and I wanted to hear your perspective on like how your parents supported you and things that I can do to support my child going into high school sports.
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. And I've seen, especially working with high school athletes now, like the impact and the importance of their parents' influence in their sports career. For me personally, my parents were super supportive of me playing, first and foremost, whatever sport that I wanted to pursue. And second, just being there to guide me, as whether it's taking me to all my practices that were 2 hours away or showing up to all my practices and games, letting me go on those travel trips. It wasn't so much of them pressuring me to make it to that college, let alone the professional level. It was more so them guiding me that way. Yes, of course, after having a bad game, we'd have those conversations of like, hey, this needs to be better. You need to be working on this. And it was constructive criticism that was positive. It helped me start getting used to that criticism too, that I would be getting at the college level. But I'd say, just like I was telling Paul too, is just letting them have fun and letting them find their groove and their love for the game, and then just guiding them along with that. I think the second that high school kids kind of feel too much pressure, they shut down and they get overwhelmed. And it's just, the game is supposed to be fun at the end of the day. It's supposed to be a fun time. And yes, there's a lot of competition to get those scholarships to make it to that next level. But again, if they're out there having fun without any stressors, without any pressure, not thinking about it, that's truly when they're going to perform their best.
Laura, if you'd allow me to share a thought on that as well, I'd like to. So Laura's son is in high school, and he comes and trains with me. But he doesn't play on the team I coach. So the teams that I've coached over time, I always have like a couple of parent information sessions as the season's getting ready to start. And one of the things I always tell parents is the best thing that you could do is to pick 3 to 5 things, skill related things. If you're a parent that wants to give input to your athlete, whether it be like hold a follow through or a particular defensive thing or something that you know they're working on, hey, attack space, and I'll give them phrases that I use in practice so they can pick and choose what those phrases are. But you don't need that. You could say it on your own. And that the best thing you could do is reinforce that to your athlete if you're having the need or desire to say something in a game, like doing that. As a coach, I'm going to be critical of the athlete. So the hardest thing for the athlete is to have me critical and then to have the parent critical at the same time. And sometimes those two criticalities don't marry up. Like what I'm seeing as a coach might not be the same thing the parent's seeing. So I always just ask parents, like, if you're going to say something during a game, try and pick one of those 2 things that are anchoring a behavior that you want to happen versus saying don't do something. And the example I use to athletes when I'm working with athletes, we were doing this the other day, and I'll do it now. Like, if I'm giving you an instruction of don't think of a pink elephant, what exactly are you thinking of is a pink elephant, right? Because our brains can't form a not image. And so when we're coaching as coaches, we do this, but even when we're coaching as sideline as parents, if we say, hey, don't let them do something or don't miss the shot or whatever, an athlete can't form that not image. So picking a behavior that you want to see repeated and reinforcing that is a really positive thing to do as a parent. I'll just pause there for a second and I'll give you my take as having 4 kids now through sports, high school sports, is just having the time. Were you here, Laura, when I was talking about my time in the car with my son and having like non-basketball conversations?
I think I was not in the room at that point.
Okay, so I shared like the most valuable times that I've had in going to and from games and practices with my youngest son, especially. I wasn't as good at this with my oldest son. Was just doing things that weren't basketball related. I kind of shared the story that I'll put on a soundtrack and we would set the scene of an opening scene of a movie to the soundtrack, and it was like, and then we'd make up like sometimes it was a horror movie, sometimes it was like guy wins girl movie or something like that. But we would just joke, have a good time about that. And sometimes I would harass him about a particular girl or something, like, well, what's her name? I saw you talking to her. But it wasn't basketball. And it was just my time. And those are the moments I cherish the most. It was like those car moments that I had with my athlete, with my son. Because it's serious enough once they start playing high school, and especially if you're on a team that's losing, it's even more challenging, because as parents we want them to win, we want to see them win, but if they're struggling in that, they're probably getting criticism from a coach, and they're getting criticism from the school, and getting criticism from all over the place. So having just the positive reinforcement side of that, and this kind of gets to what the question you asked earlier too, Paul, is when there's a challenge of something, I always like to, this is the sports psychology side of me, is ask the question, what did you learn from that? Like what in the situation, either the miss or the game that didn't go your way or something you did, but what did you learn? Or how can you improve on that? Like, what can you do? So you're doing is you're giving agency back to the athlete. You're giving them control to make a decision of what can I do? And then what did you learn? Is this facilitating a growth mindset? Like, oh, I failed at something, but now I know how not to do it. So now I understand if it's at the end of the game and I have that same situation scenario again, here's the other way of doing it. If we focus on the loss, or you shouldn't have done that, or don't do that again, we're starting to form that not image all over again. So give agency, asking them, what they saw, how did you feel, gives them that control of their own mind. And then reinforcing a growth mindset. What did you learn? Like, what are the things how are you going to grow from this experience? And again, having all this knowledge as a parent, the first time with my two oldest kids, I definitely wasn't good at this. I got good at it, even though I'm formally educated in it, I got better at it with the two younger kids, because I had to make mistakes and I had to ask myself the same question: what did you learn? Like, how did it work out for you, Coach Maxwell, in coaching your kids in the car to and from practice all the time? I'm sure if you ask my son, he would tell you it's miserable, right? Because I was coaching him at practice, coaching him to practice, coaching him from practice, telling him, all the intricate details he could have got better at, as opposed to, hey, I saw when that happened. What did you learn from that? Like, what do you think could have made that better? What would have improved the situation? So now I'm encouraging him to start thinking analytically about his own performance and what he can do, what he can take control over, rather than just have me tell him. And I think that's the biggest mistake I see from parents as a coach, is that they're critical often of the player at the same time I'm critical of the player. And that leads to the unfunness of basketball, for sure. Like, the coach will always have some criticism, but as parents, when I go watch my daughter swim, I don't say anything other than just cheer her on or say nice effort, and I focus solely on the effort. I just want, like, however it was for you, how was your effort? And you said that earlier, Lauren, about like if the success plus execution and effort aren't happening, what's your effort like?
Yeah.
Effort overcomes a lot of things. And that kind of gets to body language too. If I miss a shot or have a couple of bad things happen, what's my effort like? I can turn a lot of things around with my effort and my urgency and hustle. So I kind of maybe went a little bit protracted there, Laura, but those are just my thoughts from, the limited experience I have.
No, I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm new to the whole sports parent thing. A little over a year now that Anderson has played organized sports, and I'm also new to basketball. That's not a sport that I was really familiar with, so it's all a learning experience, and I really appreciate both of you, your perspectives. Thank you.
You bet. All right,
Yeah.
Lauren, I've kept 2 hours. Anyone else have any questions? I mean, it's some good content in here, so thank you so much.
No, yeah, thank you for having me, guys. And for allowing me to talk to you guys about my experiences. And if there's anything in the future any of you guys need or anything at all, reach out to me. You know, Gabriel has my info, so I'm here. I'm here for anything really. So I appreciate you guys listening and giving me this time to chat with y'all.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks again, Lauren. Hey, I'm gonna hit the stop recording. Would you hang on for a second? And I just
Yeah,
wanna
for
run
sure.
some- All right, y'all. Thanks so much.
All right, bye, Coach. Bye, Lauren.
Bye, Isaiah.
So I think I hit stop recording. Let's see. Stop recording.